from Haley to the mirror, and where she sees the top of the object to the building.
The Aurora project is about getting students to understand their personal environment, their home community. Students will have the skills, the building blocks, to be able to engage a game ranger, politicians, just about anybody in the community that they typically would not engage.
In Aurora, we developed activities. To develop the activity, we started with an idea that we may have had or had used in our classroom in previous years and wrote them into a lesson plan. You have to be very particular about the instructions you give your students so that even without you, a student could pick up the guide and be able to follow it without any problem.
One of the exciting things about doing these activities is that I can develop them as I use them in my classroom, and I can share those with some of my peers that are either in my school system or in another school system.
Students bring out all of that information and serve it up on the internet and allows students to look at the results of their activities and then compare their community with another community by just going to another GEOG website.
Aurora is a vehicle to help students understand basically all subjects, using geography as kind of the basis. Geography is really an ideal tool to use because it asks the question, where do things take place?
The goal is to both learn the skill of gathering some information in a local area and then to make it available on the web so that other people can look at those observations from a number of places and start to draw conclusions about them.
By using geography, you can better understand the differences and the similarities between different parts of the world. So to me, you can almost ask any kind of a question you want and use geography as a tool to answer that question.
We're relating it so that people in anywhere could pick this up. A parent, another teacher, or a student could pick up one of these guides off the internet, follow the activity. It's a step-by-step guide as to exactly what they need to do.
The student guide has been developed for upper body strength test. It tells them what they are supposed to learn from this, and then it tells them how to use the correct position and the number of push-ups that they need to do. And then we have a way that they can interpret those results by viewing the national standards for their age group. We put in data forms. The data forms are the glue that ties the activities together so that you can do your comparing from one site to another.
Today, when we went out for our GeoWeb activity, one purpose was for the kids to become aware of things around the community. One thing around us are a lot of deer.
Let's see. Jerica, you ride with Mr. Hubert?
One of the purposes of the activity was to bring in the game warden. I like to have him talk to the kids. He offers a wealth of information about habitat around our community and the wildlife around here.
I want you to look around a little bit and see why you think possibly they placed this sign here. Just kind of think about it for a little bit. How many of you have ever noticed the deer crossing signs as you're driving down? Can you think of any other crossing signs that you've seen?
People crossing.
People crossing? Moose crossing? Okay. All right, trucks crossing the road. Okay, so these signs, what are they for? What do they tell you?
To slow down.
All right, slow down to warn you. Dylan, will you use the GPS unit and find our location? And Jerica, why don't you take a digital picture of the sign and on both sides of the road for the sign? Jopi, will you write down the location?
Okay. North at 36.27524.
North at 36.27524.
West at 98.37362.
We're going to go down to the mile corner with Mr. Hubert, and I want you to ask him some questions about deer and how they cross, and we're going to try to figure out if this sign is placed where it should be placed.
Where were most of the deers hit last year by vehicles?
Most of the deer were hit further on down. And normally when you place a sign, you're going to forewarn that an event might happen. So it's been put up here because most of the deer were hit from this point on. And so it's a forewarning.
Does it make a difference night and day when more deer are hit?
Deer are more active at night than they are during the day. So generally that's when most of them would be hit, would be more during the nighttime.
Okay, anybody else have any questions?
Are there more female or male deers hit?
We generally hunt males more than we do females or the bucks. And so there are more females in the population, or does, than there are male to begin with. So obviously, it'd be more likely that there would be a doe hit than a buck. What have we talked about that would make this an ideal location to cross?
There's a creek down there, so they'd have
Okay.
water.
Normally where we find wildlife is they work what's called the edge. They're not down necessarily in the deep cover. They may be working more towards the edge of that, where the area of habitat changes from one type to another, say trees to grassland.
If this is where the deer get hit, why is the deer crossing sign so far away?
You want it far enough away for people to be forewarned. And not only that, but you want to give the deer a little bit of leeway as far as, we know that this is where they cross most, but they don't say, well, I'm going to go down to 7.5 miles to cross because that's where they're going to be expecting me.
Is there a sign down there at the other end by 9 Mile Corner?
No, there's not a sign from that direction.
What do you think about the sign placement?
I think we should put another one at the 9 Mile Corner.
You think there should be another one at the 9 Mile Corner?
That's what I think. They should just always be aware.
Another purpose was to make a map so they can visually see how many deer were hit at different locations and see if there was a cluster, if there were a lot that were hit at a particular place. Can you all remember how we got this aerial photograph of Fairview?
We went into the Terra server and we found Fairview, and it brought up a crosshair so we could take a picture of Fairview, and we transferred it onto ClarisWorks.
What do we want to start with?
Making our sign.
Okay, sign.
So, like, where was it? It was, like, right around here or something. It's about right there. It's about over down here a little bit more.
Okay, remember we went down and we talked at the 6 miles. Was the sign before it or after
It
it?
was after it, wasn't it? No, we
So,
talked.
To the 6
Which way did we walk from the sign to the 6 Mile Corner? We walked?
No, we walked that way.
So where
it's
should
over
the-
here.
Okay, just a little way.
Where's the side of the road?
Chelsea, why don't you make some colored dots for us? Let's decide on what color we want each sex to be.
We have
Bucks
like
and does?
the bucks can be blue and the does can be red and then the unknown yellow. So on the map we'll know what's what.
Okay. Y'all have done a good job making your dots for your male and your female and your unknown deer. And I like what you've suggested to use the bigger dots for your seasons.
Now we can overlap them.
Yeah, overlap them like you were doing that one. I found in using this GeogWeb tool, the mapping tool, with the students that it was easy for them to do. And they were willing to try different things.
We're going to go ahead and plot the roads.
I think that'd be a good idea to make the roads. What do y'all think?
I think so too. Okay, I'm going to go ahead. What color should we make the roads? Purple. I like the black better.
Jericho, you said that there would be a key so that people would know what that meant. What do you mean by a key?
To put like the brown ones down there and saying that they're winter, and the purple ones down there saying they're spring, so they know what each of the dots means.
What else would we put in our map key? Would
Yeah,
there be
and the
any-
roads.
Oh, the
dirt
road.
road or the highway or the river.
Okay, right.
And the deer crossing sign.
Can you think of anything else that we would need to put with this map besides the map key?
The direction symbol.
Oh, the direction
Compass,
symbol.
yeah.
Oh, compass rose. We need to make a compass rose. Where do you think we could find a
Oh,
compass
in the
rose?
library. Probably in the library.
Oh.
Yeah. Compass. You can go down.
I like that you've added a distance scale. I like the other compass rose that you found. Does everyone think that the map key is complete? Got the river, the highway, your sign, your deer crossing sign. That's good.
Dirt road.
We don't have your dirt roads on there yet. We need to do that.
Now we have to do is delete the aerial photograph.
There you go. Dylan, how did you do that?
I selected the aerial photograph and then I pushed delete. And I deleted them.
There's your map. When they were all finished, they automatically have a 2-scale map because they're drawing it on the aerial photograph. All of their sizing is right for their roads, and it's done by 4th graders.
Did you guys notice that they're all between about 7.5? Yeah. Yeah, except for 2.
What do you think about there only being one sign?
I think there should be some more.
I think there should
There
be
Where?
another sign at the
Like
end.
at the 9 mile corner. At the 9 mile corner to
Like
remind
where
people
it
that.
turns to places right before they turn in to
Okay.
be aware.
Okay. I like for him to become involved in policy making, caring about things that are going on in their community and in the state.
What do you think that you could do to stop so many deer from being hit? What would be some solutions that you can come up with?
Write
They
a
can-
note to the mayor and ask him to
Or
put
the
either another
sheriff
sign
or
or something.
the governor or something and tell him that there needs to be, that they need to like maybe change the speed limit, make the speed limit lower so people would watch out.
We could like write a letter and tell him that there needs to be another sign or how long the sign's gonna last.
Okay. Do you think that sending this map along with your letter might prove your point?
Yeah.
One of the things that I want to add to this GeogWeb activity is incorporating some writing tools. The students expressed an interest in writing some letters of concern. One of the things that I'll do is I will search the GeogWeb to see if there are tools available for me to use in guiding the students. And if there's not, then as a developer, that might be something I want to develop. What we're going to do now is we're going to enter the information that we've collected and the things that you've learned on the GeogWeb data entry. And then when other schools do the same activity, they can read our results, and then we'll be able to go in and read their results and what they learned, and we'll compare. So, Jericho, what do we need to write?
What animals your crossing sign designated for? Deer.
Chelsea, what did you come up with?
There's a draw for shelter for the deers to hide under, and there's a creek in the draw for the deer.
The last thing they had to do on the data form was to write a description where they put together all the information after they plotted the map, after they interviewed.
Quite a few trees where the deer can hide and then just pop out. When they do that, they get hit.
Now that we've typed in our explanation and we have everything entered in that we want to tell people when they do this activity, all we have to do is click finish and it's all set. Our data is loaded. One of the skills the students had to be able to use was to work together. They had to be able to share the responsibilities of who was going to be on the computer, who was going to be using the camera, who was using the GPS, who was taking the notes. They had to respect each other in listening to each other's questions and each other's ideas.
So most of them are between 7 and 8 miles. And there's a we're pretty close by the 7 miles, so that might be one reason. Yeah, those are they're all there.
When we do these activities, it engages my students in math, but it also engages them in a cross-curricular study. They learn more about their community. They learn more about the world around them. They learn about other people from other areas. We're going to go out and measure buildings, but before we do that, you're going to have to get your student guide and the form that we are going to use for our data.
Are all the instructions on here, or, what do we do if we don't understand?
Okay, what I want you to do, all the instructions should be on there, but remember, this is in development, and we're getting this ready to send out to schools all over the country. So if you have a question, I won't be there, but I want you to make a note of that question. Then you can ask me when you get back, and then I can make the changes so that they'll be there for future use. I trust them to do what they're supposed to do, and I really think they enjoy doing these activities on their own and having the responsibility of doing it.
Place the mirror on a flat surface such as a ground, sidewalk, pavement, or tabletop. Do not lean over the mirror, but stand straight. So put the mirror on the ground. All right, Haley, you have to look and make sure you can see the top.
Oh, here we go. Right here.
Look into the mirror and move around until the side of the top of a given object is in the middle of the mirror.
Okay, in the middle? Yeah. Can you turn it a little bit? Okay. Ah! Okay.
Okay, while you are standing in position, have a teammate measure the distance from you to the mirror. So we need to make a measurement from Haley to the mirror and where she sees the top of the object to the building.
How are you going to know where the middle is? Because you can't see from where.
Well,
Shouldn't we mark it or something so that you can tell?
that's not in the
Mark it?
instructions. Audrey, you might want to write that down So we can tell Miss Sweat that you need to have some kind of mark on the mirror.
Okay. No, come toward me. Okay, no, go back. Okay, stop. Right there?
We need to give a distance from her to the line, from the line to the building, and from her feet to her eyes, the ground to her eyes. We need to know how tall she is first.
Like 5'4",
To her eyes?
5'3". Yeah.
It's 3 foot 10 inches. Now we need to measure from the line to the building. You're gonna have to pull it tight. That's good.
88 feet, 8 inches.
Yes, ma'am.
So what do we just do?
All right, we just calculated the distance from Haley, which is the P, and the wall over here. That is the grain elevator we just did, so now we gotta go back to class and calculate it.
How are we going to know if we calculated it right?
Hello.
Hi.
How are you today?
Fine.
We're doing a project for our AP Calculus class, and we need to know the height of the grain elevator. So could I have you write it down on a piece of paper?
Sure. There you go, Audrey.
Thank you very much.
Don't look at it until
Okay,
you get all
I
your
won't.
calculations done.
Okay, thank
Appreciate
you very much.
Glad
Very
I could
helpful.
help you.
Thanks.
So if we take P, it's the distance from my eye level to the ground, and that'll be 63 inches, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Over the distance from me to the mirror, which
was 3 foot 10 inches,
is that?
which is the 46.
Okay.
So we have the grain bin as being 121 feet.
Yeah, whatever.
4 inches.
Let's see what the real height is.
The real height is 145 feet.
Oops.
So we were off 24 feet?
Yeah.
A little bit. So
That's
now
not
we need
bad.
to figure out why we were off 24 feet.
Well, how's it going?
We're off a little bit.
Off a little bit? 24
Yeah.
feet. That's more than a little bit. Let's see, how did you do it? Show me.
Well, we followed the formula that was right here and put all our numbers in, and then we got 121 feet as our answer, but it turns out that it's supposed to be 145 feet, so we must have messed up somewhere. I don't know how.
You used the right formula.
Yes.
And how did you set it up?
I was angled. Like, if this was me, it was like I was going that way, and then they put the mirror
mirror's right
kind of
there.
at an angle so that I hit the building.
The building's up here like that.
And you were looking more or less at about the center of the building in the mirror?
Yeah.
Okay. Then when you measured, well, how did you measure?
We measured from the middle of the mirror, from our mark in the mirror, to this
Right corner.
to the right corner here, which would actually be shorter, I guess. than-
Okay, well, if you're pointed at the middle of the building, it might have been better to measure straight to the middle of the building from that point to this point, if that's the way you were directed. Because you're trying to set up a triangle, and if you set them off angle, then you might be missing the angle. And just that distance, what do you calculate that distance to be that might have been different?
In between 6 and 8 feet.
Well, see, if you look at your ratio, 6 to 8 feet difference in this distance versus this distance is going to make your height shorter than what it really was.
So if we would have gone to the middle, we probably would have had more feet then.
Yeah, and you'd have more accuracy in your measurement.
Okay.
Okay. Well, that's something I can put in my notes, though. I need to add that and try to do a setup, not only of what the formula should look like, but to tell them that it would probably be best if you measure straight on.
We had a problem, though, that Audrey wrote down. We used a marker for the mirror, and you didn't have that
Okay.
on there, so...
Did you find any benefits in doing this activity?
Yeah, I think we learn a lot more when you're out in the classroom, when you're experimenting with things, and you have a lot more fun when you can get involved and you can all hang out and try and figure things out and just do things as a team.
It's more than just writing down X's and O's on paper all day long.
We were a little off, but we had a lot of fun.
Let's get this data on the computer.
What do we find the height of the building to be? 121 feet?
Yeah.
Here's the Oklahoma State Capitol that some students did when they were down there. And then here is your grain elevator. And you can compare the heights of these different buildings. And you see your grain elevator is very close to the height of the State Capitol building.
So why exactly did we put 121 feet in there when we recalculated it and it's really 145 feet?
Well, do you think you want to change it? You want to update your data?
Yeah.
Okay, we can do that. On here, when you've calculated and you think your calculations might be off, you can go to the set of data, which was yours. This was
145? Yep.
Is that it?
Yep.
When you're done, just tell it you're finished. We can go back and view our table and see if it updated our data.
That's good. Now our building's taller than the Capitol. We have the tallest building around.
That's right. Yep.